Oh yeah, you heard what I said. This is for my family, got dream in my head. Oh yeah, you heard what I said. This is for my family, got dream in my head. Oh yeah, you heard what I said. This is for my family, got dream in my head.
What is up, God Dream TV? We're here again with another episode. And if you've never watched before or listened on any of the podcasts, kind of our vision here is just to sit down with different leaders who are living out their God dreams. Yeah. And by the conversations that we have, hopefully it'll encourage you to live out yours. This week we have someone very special. Jordan, who do we have on?
This week we've got the one and only Madison Phillips.
Let's go.
And I just wanted to start off by saying that you've impacted my life, and I'm sure both of our lives so much, and been such an inspiration to us throughout internship and just seeing you do ministry day in and day out at the church with constantly so many people. Just want to say you're such an inspiration to everybody around you. And with that being said, let's jump right in.
My name's Madison Phillips. I'm 22 years old. I grew up here, went to Plano schools.
Let's go.
I was not a Christian girl, not a good girl at all. I was a partier, troublemaker. I barely graduated high school. I was just a mess. But when I was 17, I had an encounter with God that changed me forever, absolutely forever. I was free, healed, restored, everything. And then I did our internship program at our church for 2 years, and it changed my life. And then I worked full time, and then came on staff at Church 1132 about a little over a year ago. And now I'm just doing it, and it's so fun. I love it so much.
That's amazing.
Living the dream.
I think I speak for everyone. Just being around you, one of the things that stands out is your confidence.
Yeah.
And just kind of wanted to have you elaborate on that, speak into that. So.
Yeah. So a lot of what I did in high school was rooted in insecurity. I was never very confident. Confidence is not natural to me. Mm-hmm. It's not something I naturally walk in. It's something I've definitely had to learn in order to be everything that God has called me to be. Yeah. And confidence, the biggest thing why I can be so confident now is because I had to be completely convinced of who God created me to be, and believe in myself that I am more than a conqueror. Mm-hmm. I have not been given a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. God has called me. I'm anointed. I'm gifted. Yeah. And me believing that for myself without the approval of other people or the opinion of other people, me believing that changed everything. Wow. That I have God on my side, and that's the difference, is when you believe in yourself, other people believe in you. It's not, let me get other people to believe in me so that I can believe in myself,
That's so good. I think just being honest, that's been one of my biggest struggles. Mm-hmm. I know oftentimes I'll have almost it's seasons of confidence.
Oh, totally.
So it's for 6 months I'm confident, for 3 weeks sometimes I'm confident,
totally.
If we're honest.
It's real.
So has there ever been anything that's tried to shake your confidence? And then if so, how do you get over that?
It's good. Definitely a lot of it, it's physical. Just as females, a lot of pressure is put on us to be perfect and, all that kind of stuff. I had an eating disorder for a long time in high school, just because I can be such a perfectionist. Yeah. And so that insecurity was a lot. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes the opinions of people, if someone talks bad about me or doesn't like me, that can be insecurity can rise up a little bit. But it's in those moments that you have to choose to be confident and not let that insecurity take over and really believe, no, that's the enemy trying to get in my head. I'm not going to believe that, because he'll try to throw those things at you all the time. It's just choosing to believe the opposite,
Yeah, that's powerful.
So, but everyone has things that spark insecurity all the time. I don't think anyone is 100% confident 24/7, but
dang, that's so true. I think too, it's weird for me. Some people look at me and they're like, "Bro, you're so confident." Yeah. And it's bro, if only you knew the thoughts that I have. Yeah. You think these jeans are cool. Well, I looked in the mirror 5 minutes before I left the house with these jeans that you think are cool. You know what I'm saying?
No, for real.
It's weird.
It's so true. I actually taught a confidence class because this is an anthem of my life that I feel I'm called to help other girls walk in confidence. And I taught this class, and a lot of times it is kind of an outward thing. Sometimes you're not going to feel confidence all the time. There's a verse in the Bible that says that confidence is put on.
Dang.
that I put on confidence.
Wow.
And so every day it's like I'm putting confidence on. I may not feel it, I may not believe it, but I'm confident, and I'm choosing to be confident today. Man. And a lot of it's practical things like body language and stuff like that. But yeah, confidence is one of my favorite classes that I've taught on.
That's so cool. Yeah, so obviously, like, communication wise, like, you're an amazing communicator.
Thank you.
Even outside of God, like, just the way you like talk is like so good.
Thanks.
Do you have like any tips on that for anybody
just
who's
public
like
speaking?
Public speaking. I think that'd be cool.
Body language is huge. I would say, and I'm still learning 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
All of us
Actually,
are.
both
of y'all are amazing communicators too. Seriously, like the first time I heard both
you.
of you preach, I was like, what in the world? I think body language is key. I think taking your time, slowing down, because when we get nervous, we talk really fast, you know?
Yeah.
And public speaking is like taking your time, grabbing attention.
Yeah.
And so learning how to pull people's attention, learning how to flow very well, learning your voice inflection, you know, females tend to have a higher pitched voice, so knowing how to sound like not pitchy, you know, those are practical speaking tips for sure. I'm trying to think of another one. When this is so funny, the first time I actually preached a full message, I was pacing back and forth
Everyone
like this the
saved,
entire
like,
time. Whatever, no, it's like bodies on the floor. No, but I was like pacing back and forth, and so it's also going back and watching yourself.
Oh, that is the hardest.
It is so hard. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
But you do things that you don't realize while you're up there, and it's like, wow, okay, just don't move all the time. But other people will just stand in one place and not move.
Yeah.
But it's good to like move around a little bit, you know? So those I would say slowing down is my biggest one. Just being comfortable up there. Like sometimes I will get up on the stage at the church with no one there, and I'll just stand up there to get comfortable up there. Yeah. Because it can be a scary thing, you know?
It's so true.
It's like I remember the first time I preached, I was like 15 maybe, and they recorded, it was a peer preach, so I was a student intern, and they made us preach for 2 minutes. And I remember
2 minutes?
Yeah, it was like 2 minutes. It was like a little segment thing.
Wow.
And I remember it went like 15 minutes. And then the next week, they came and handed everybody flash drives of their sermon. And I went home and I put it in a drawer, and it's been in that drawer for 7 years.
You should go back and listen to it.
I'm sure I will one day.
It's a 2-minute sermon.
But
I want to hear Jordan's first sermon.
Yeah, me too.
It's like a 15-minute sermon. Yeah, I did not know where I was going. But I was gonna say, like, on the topic of public speaking, like, and especially like both of us having done internship, you having done internship, a lot of like this past year, we would find out like 2 days before we had to speak. So whenever you are
messed up for that, man.
whenever you are put in a situation where it's like, here's the mic, you got to say something. Like, how do you come across, like, because there's so many times like people would find out the same day that like hey, you're preaching tonight, and then they're up there and like, have you been preparing this for your whole life? When you know like they've prepared for an hour or 2 hours. Like, what is it?
That's tough.
What is it that gives you that ability to like be ready in season and out of season?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Partly internship trained me by telling me so short notice, you know? I think exactly what you said was being ready in season and out of season. Always, if you're having your personal times with God every morning, things should just flow out, you know? But I wouldn't say I'm the best at this of short notice going up there and killing it. I typically over prepare way too much, you know? And so even like right now in this season, I'm learning how to flow more and not be so rehearsed, or being more flexible to the Holy Spirit and like what He wants to say. Because before it was like, this is exactly what I'm going to say. Got my points, got whatever. But you're right, like, you don't always get the time to do that. And I want to be able to jump up there and just go. You know? Like, Pastor Cameron has tried to get me to do that, and I'm like, I didn't have enough notice. And he's like, no, you can just do it. So I'm really learning that.
I think that like flows out of the secret place. Like, I had this revelation the other day. It was like you can't surprise God. You can't like throw him a curveball. He knows what the battles you're about to face. He knows what's about to pop up in your face that you might not be ready for. But I was like, he spent our whole lives preparing us for the next moment.
True. It's so
like
true.
he hasn't like equipped us for the wrong things or like not given us enough tools or enough preparation to defeat the enemy or defeat the battle in front of us. Yeah. So like
I love that. It really does come out of secret place.
It's like you can't surprise God. Like he knows. Yeah. He's never like, oh dang, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So good.
It's so true.
I think I found like a great rhythm now, but an internship, oftentimes I would depend, like I caught myself depending on the prayer times. I caught myself depending on the class times.
Totally.
And it was like the secret place, partly because I live 3 feet from this man right here, and Jameson and Jordan. That's awesome. It's just like, how do your quiet times look after internship? Because I know like there might be some people watching who's like, I was so dependent on church, so dependent on my pastor maybe, but like, how do you practically spend time with God?
That is probably the most important question. Is your times with God outside of a corporate church setting has to be the foundation. And for me personally, practically, I wake up 30 minutes early, and I'm very flexible. It just depends. I don't have like a set, this is what I do. But I always, in whatever order, I always read the word, whether that's just reading over Psalms, just getting it in me, or studying it and going deeper in it, reading the Bible at some point, listening to the Lord, just sitting and listening. And then also, usually I start by worshiping and just using my voice and just getting in tune to the Holy Spirit, speaking in tongues. Absolutely every day.
Amen.
All the time. You know, all the time. Be in the car, always. You know, it is. So that it's about 30 minutes of just spending time with the Lord. I'll journal a lot, what God's speaking, and those are really cool because I get to go back and look at those things and see, like, wow, God really did speak to me those things. So I would say worship, the Word, and listening and praying in tongues is the four.
I think that's
my keys.
So good.
Yeah, last week we had Edwin on, and he said something kind of about this that like I've never heard before. He was like kind of compared it to the relationship with his little brother. Okay. And he was like, so every Saturday we have a plan to like hang out, but there's certain times like during the week where it's like I can tell he needs me. And it's like sometimes with God, like we might have our quiet time in the morning, but like being sensitive to like God, really like when do you want time for me, like, and I think that's so good, like just what you said, like you don't have to plan it out. It doesn't have to be an hour. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes. Just making time and space. I think that's so good.
Absolutely. Even throughout the day, just being in tune. All the time. It's definitely super important. I love that analogy though. It's really good.
Actually, Kayla Calloway sent in a question that so good. She said, how do you handle the insecurity and fear of what other people think of you?
That's hard. I'm a natural people pleaser. It's my default of people pleasing. I want everyone to like me. I want everyone to be good. I want everyone at peace. If people like me, I'm good. And if anyone has a problem, it's like earth shattering. And that's my default. And I kind of made up my mind a long time ago that I'm not going to argue with people. Wow. Like if people look down on me because of my age or because I'm a female or whatever it is, I'm not going to argue with people and try to convince them, listen to me, I have good motives, I have a good heart. Like I'm not going to try to convince people. I do tell people I love you no matter what. Like when it comes to leadership, I love you no matter what. I'm praying for you. I'm always saying, and I really mean those things, but if I can't meet someone's expectations or someone just because it's going to happen. I mean, people are people, and I'm human. I'm going to disappoint people. Everybody does, just because we're human. And it's just being okay that you can't please everybody. And that's a very hard lesson to learn. And it's not easy real. At all. But I think Jamie said this, Jamie Bates, and I loved it. Like this is so good that in ministry, in leadership, God is trying to get you tough skin, but a soft heart. And that is like my goal, is to have really tough skin where I can shake things off. I'm tough, but I still have a very soft heart towards people and towards God.
I love that.
And so I would just say that to anybody who is like dealing with criticism or hate or anything. First of all, love them, period, no matter what. They need to know you love them by your words and your actions. And then have tough skin and a soft heart. So it's very hard lesson. Everyone, I mean, if you are making an impact or a difference, you're gonna
Yeah.
get some heat by
Yeah.
somebody, you know, because
For
you can't
sure.
please everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm sure y'all have dealt with that too.
Yeah.
And I think that like tough skin, soft heart like applies to a lot of situations, not just like being judged or being hated on, but like I remember I was going to a candlelight service with PT like last fall, and I was like, bro, how do you handle these things like when the room is so heavy and just everyone's like heartbroken, like, and especially like being like a somewhat emotional person, like I'm like, dang, like this, it doesn't feel good, like I want to cry, but like especially when you're like the speaker, like
Oh my gosh.
it's got to be so much harder. Like I was just riding like along for the ride, and I was like just like felt so heavy, like my heart broke for the people that knew this guy, and I was just like, how do you do that? And he was like, you got to have tough skin and a soft heart. Like you can empathize, you can sympathize with people, but like on the outside you have to like be okay. And it's hard. And I think it applies to like a lot of areas of life.
It does. Pastors have to be so tough. You know, and being in ministry, it's only been 1 year, but I've seen how tough pastor skins have to be, you know, and sometimes it's not fair. But
for sure.
The job of a pastor is to lay their life down for people. You know, and when you lay your life down, you get run over, stomped over, and you have to have tough skin. But you also can't get bitter, can't get resentful, you can't close people out. You still have to love and have a soft heart. But it's tough. For sure.
I think, how do you practically, because you went through internship, like, and like second years, the Wolfpack isn't always going to be the Wolfpack. You know what I'm saying? How did you like kind of deal with that, like the aspect of like losing close friends, if you've ever kind of been through that?
That is difficult. Friendships are the most important thing. One of the most important things is who your friends are. And I think it's important to know that some friends are only for a season. As much as we want to believe that this friend is going to be my friend for life. And I believe God brings us those people. But understanding that some friends are there for a season. They're going to be good for you for a season. And people come in and out of your life. And also just adult life is busy, and just because you're not with each other all the time or praying together and stuff like that doesn't mean you're not still tight. Like I have friends to this day where I haven't seen them in months, but the second I see them it's like, you know, so a lot of it is just being flexible, but I think a good friend is loyal no matter what. It's constantly reaching out, constantly there, present, but understanding that like you don't have to be glued to the hip to be best friends, you know.
That's so true.
Because especially you guys, like y'all are gonna go amazing places, and God's gonna call you to different places, but you still have that relationship, and you still get together and you still push each other forward. But it does feel like you can lose people sometimes, but it's also being intentional, you know, like friendship is intentional. It doesn't just happen. And so choosing who your friends are going to be, and then also reaching out and making that happen. So
I love what you just said. Like, friendship doesn't just happen. Like, it's I think
real.
a lot of people like think, I don't know that I ever struggle with this too much because I like to talk to everyone. But some people just think like friendships come to them. And I mean, sometimes they do, but for the most part, like it's usually like it takes an act of work.
So
like
true.
you have to go out and get it.
Very true.
And I don't know, like that's something I've been realizing with everything. Like bills don't pay themselves. Like, like I wish the gym worked like that too. Like I hate the gym, but like I go. You know what I'm saying? It's just life. If you just let it happen to you, like it just usually doesn't.
Do you ever watch that Bishop T.D. Jakes and Stephen Furtick interview? I'm sure y'all did.
Which one? Soar?
I don't remember. Soar. Yes. I think it was where he was talking about the table. And building the table, and he was saying that God never just gives you a table; He gives you a tree. And then you have to make the table. And that applies to friendships and everything. It's like God gives you a tree, and then you have to work to really develop the table that you want.
That's
you know?
I think I've started to realize lately is like, if I'm not around community, or if I'm not like getting plugged in the church, or like feel like my friends are leaving me, it's probably no one's fault but my own. Or like, if I feel like my leaders aren't there for me, it's probably because I haven't gone to them and be like, hey, I'm not okay right
Jordan,
now.
That's
like,
so real, though. That's so good.
Like, you can't blame anyone but yourself. Honestly, like, there may be a
You
few
can preach that all day, Jordan.
situations where like you could blame other people, but for the most part, like there's a lot of that blame falls on yourself.
That's so good. You know.
And it's not easy to like. That's a hard pill to swallow. Like
it is.
I remember hearing that, and I was like, "It's not my fault. It's their fault. Like I didn't do anything wrong. They did something wrong."
Yeah.
Like
and try telling other people that.
Yeah.
It's like they hurt me. They did this. It's like no, it's
Yeah.
you. Like that's always the hardest conversation.
Like you didn't tell us you weren't okay, or you didn't tell us like you were hurt, or blah blah blah. Stuff like that.
Totally.
Like, it's a hard pill to swallow.
Oh yeah, looking in.
Yeah. Last night I was at IPIC and Lucas, the manager, like in pre-shift or whatever, he was saying like people fire themselves. I was like,
wow.
Dang.
Lucas.
It just it like went to all aspects of my life. Like we're responsible for like us.
Yeah.
Like
yes.
So easy to live like as a victim.
Yep.
And stuff. So
true.
It's crazy.
God does not hand you things and does not just land things in your lap.
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer in working while you wait as well. Is working what God's given you, and then God says, if you're faithful with little, then I'll give you much. And a lot of people, and this might go into the process to your calling, is like they want to sit around and wait for it to fall into their lap. But God always said, no, you need to work with what you have, the little what you have, and then he'll give you much. And so I 100% agree with that. Working and lazy Christians are not not good.
Yeah, for sure. That's so true. Man.
So true.
Obviously this was a question I'm sure you were expecting, but like kind of being like a woman in ministry, I think there's probably a lot of girls like just listening that feel called to preaching, and it's something that's kind of controversy some places, but can you just kind of speak into that? I think like maybe just encourage.
Topic.
Yeah, a big topic.
It's a big topic.
Yeah.
Luckily, we have a church, and we're so blessed to have a church that believes in women.
Yeah.
And it's our DNA to raise up women.
Yeah.
And that's the church that I was saved in, that I work at, that I was raised up in. And so it's been not easy, but I've been privileged to be in a culture that celebrates women, that does not see women as second, or you can't preach, you can't teach, you know. And so for me personally, my experience has been I'm faithful with what I have right now, and then God has opened up doors and promotion in these things of preaching and teaching and jobs and stuff. And at times I've even been like wanting to push the brakes, like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't love this. It's not comfortable. And God's like, no, come on. And leaders are like, come on, you know? So I've been so privileged just to have people who celebrate me, who are encouraging me, pushing me. Like, I feel so celebrated when I preach. I never feel like, oh, I hope the guys don't get offended that I'm up here. Ever. That's never thought in my mind, because our house, the men know to believe in women, to celebrate women, and the women know. You know, when I'm giving guys advice, when I'm praying for guys, I never I hope that they receive this, you know, because if you're raised in our house, the men know, like, we respect women, honor women, receive from women, you know. And so we're just so privileged to have that culture. So it's been, I haven't had to deal with having to promote myself or fight to be respected, fight to be heard at all, which is I'm very grateful for. But I know that that's not everyone's experience. And so I would say to any women who, even in the workplace, who feel less than, feel like belittled by men, I would say just find a church, home, or a work environment that celebrates women and encourages women, you know.
So good.
And we're just so blessed to have a house that does believe in that, but it's hard. It's really hard.
Another thing, like, I kind of noticed about you, just thinking, literally, no matter where I feel like we are, you always have, like, a group of, like, 5 girls, like, following you around wherever we are. And it's, like, what I mean by that is, like, you disciple so well. Yeah. And I think you, like, even just with my life, like, I know we haven't, like, spent an insane amount of time together, but, like, little things you would say to me, little words of encouragement, and I think it just means a lot. So could you just kind of speak into someone who's maybe at a smaller church or somewhere else who's discipling someone, like, practically, how do you disciple?
Yeah, that's good. We're called to be disciples, and so that is, a lot of people focus on preaching or leading or influence, but discipling should be the focus.
Wow.
And I think that when it comes to discipling and influence, spending time with them is big. Leading by example is big. And Pastor Leswell did a class with all the staff. He's amazing. Oh my gosh. I learned so much from him about discipling because he was saying that when you're counseling or meeting with someone, the first thing that you should say is, I love you, I care about you, and I have your best interest in mind.
So good.
Wow. And then he said this, that to tell them, if at any point you feel like I do not have your best interest in mind, please let me know. Yeah. If I do anything that makes you think I don't have your best interest in mind, please let me know. Wow. To tell them that, because then it's a safe place for them. Because a lot of times they can disagree with leadership or be hurt by leadership, and then they harbor it and they feel like they can never talk about it. Yeah. But it's our job to be a safe place for them, to be like, if you disagree with something I said, let's talk about it. You know, not a one-way conversation. So learning that was huge. And then Pastor Mark Francie said this, which I love. He said, never correct someone that you don't love.
Wow.
Never correct someone that you don't love.
Dang.
It's our job to love people first, to be there for them, to meet their needs, whatever they need, to love them, care about them, and be a shepherd to our sheep, you know? It's interesting in the Bible, studying shepherds and the sheep and how they treated their sheep. When a sheep would die or get sick or pass away, the shepherd would literally mourn over that sheep and cry over that sheep because he loved them so much. But the sheep could never do anything for the shepherd. The shepherd just loved them. And I think for us, it's like we just have to have that love, and just that's what we're called to do, is just love them, show them Jesus, and help them, you know, be all that God's called them to be. So discipling is really important, and I want to be a great disciple and show women what they can do and everything they can be. So yeah.
You said something in there along the lines of like, before like preaching, before all this, like our job is to like disciple, and it's easy to want to like, you know what I'm saying? It's easy to want to be seen. And usually discipleship, like the reward is what they become.
Yes,
like it's usually not,
so good,
usually you don't post on Instagram like, oh, I'm discipling so-and-so.
Right.
You don't necessarily get rewarded for it all the time, but it's like, it's being like Jesus,
so
you know?
good.
So.
And it shows your true motives, because you're right. Discipling is not celebrated or fancy or, you know, spotlight, anything. It is humbling, and it shows your true motives, because when you're meeting with a student at 7 o'clock on a night when you're really tired, it's like, no, you don't get credit for that. Yeah. But their fruit and them being free and them being all that God has called them to me, that's a freaking reward, you know?
Reward, yeah.
Like, that's crazy and I'm sure y'all have experienced this, when you disciple someone and then you see them walk in victory or succeed or be like a man of God, a woman of God. That is like the best thing in the world. It's the best feeling that I had a part to play in that. And that's why we do what we do. That's why we're in ministry. That's why we love people, is because of people. Dang. Like, it's about people. You know, like at the end of the day, is it about people?
Yeah.
That's kind of, I guess it was last week, I went to the Prosper Youth Hangout, and I was, like, tired because I'd been up all day. Like, I'd opened at the coffee shop that morning, so I was up at 5:30, and then had, like, meetings at the church with my accountabilities, and then went to, like, grab a bite to eat, and then went to Prosper, and I was like, I'm so tired. I don't want to be here. Yeah. I want to go home and sleep. Yeah. And I was like, in that moment, I was just like, these kids probably love that we're here.
Seriously.
Yeah. Like, they probably love that, like, there's, like, 7 interns here.
Right.
That took time out of their day to just go, like, hang out. And we weren't even, like, really talking to them. We were just, like, sitting outside the pool, like, hanging out. And all the kids were in the pool. And I was like, how selfish of us is it to, like, sit here and think about how tired I am and like want to go home when like these kids look up to us so much. And we're almost afraid of like, dang, like they're too cool for me, like they don't want to hang out with me, like I'm not in high school anymore, like I don't know what's cool. But really, like they're just looking up to us, like man, I can't wait to be an intern, or I can't wait to be in college, out of school.
Right.
It's just like we lose track of, or like lose sight of,
that's so true,
of what it really looks like. Because I remember being that age and like looking up at the leaders in my youth group, and I'm like, dang, they got it made. Like, I want to be there. Like, so I was just like, that hit me hard in that moment. I was like, man, I'm selfish.
No, it's so true. And a lot of it is like those young people, sometimes act like they're too cool for school. Like we'll never tell you that they look up to you or tell you anything. But it's like when we realize how much influence we really have and how much they really look up to us, they're dying to meet with us, dying to spend time with us. And if we really believed that, we would do it. But we don't think like, oh, they don't care, they're just doing their own thing. But really, they really look up to us.
And I think it never stops. Like, there's so many times where I'm like, man, I just want to like sit down with Pastor Dustin and have an hour-long conversation, you know? And like, I don't always get that, or like, I can't wait to be in his position, like where like I can like walk in like what I feel called to do, and but also like being thankful for the season that I'm in. So like it almost like it follows the season that you're in. Like I was in middle school, I wanted to be in college. I'm in college, I want to be
so true.
Older and like and like we have to be so patient and like at peace with where we are in life. And that's hard a lot of the time.
It is. It's so true.
So good. Yeah, I think just kind of a good way to end this is just like what we were talking about. Like this is about people. Yeah. And I agree. It's so easy to get distracted by I have to do this, I have to post this on Instagram, like I have to go through these announcements. You know what I mean? And it's just like getting back our heart for people. I think that's amazing.
It's everything.
So, yeah, if you could maybe just say a quick prayer for us. And we'll end.
Lord, we just thank you for this time. God, I thank you for Brandon and Jordan and the influence that they have. I just pray for protection over them, that you would take them farther than they ever thought that they could go. And I just pray for anyone watching, Lord, that you would just speak to them. Pray that this would give them peace and even vision for their future. And I do just pray that you would give your people just a heart for your people again, that it would be our motive, it would be our prayer, it would be the fuel of everything that we do. It's for people, it's for souls, it's for lost people, that they would be everything that you've called them to be. In the name of Jesus, amen.
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 Dope.
Thanks for having me, y'all. It was fun.